I have two teachers that needed to reset their password. Oh, looks like you got something going on. I'm going to back out while you do this. So.
You sure you don't want to stay?
That is very kind.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our third meeting of the North Carolina Advisory Council for Student Wellbeing and Safety. And we appreciate you all being here today. And we've got a meeting from 1 to 2 today. And I'm going to let each of my co-chairs introduce themselves real quick to you. So I'm Billy Laster. I'm the Deputy Secretary for the Department of Public Safety and one of the co-chairs for the council. And Heather, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that are in a school building, I just got back from proctoring EOGs. So what a wonderful time of year it is. But I'm Heather Smith, and I am the 2024 North Carolina Teacher of the Year, and I'm happy to be a co-chair with my two wonderful colleagues.
Thank you, Heather.
And good to see you all. I'm Sydney Batch. I represent Senate District 17. And I know that the kids that Ms. Smith actually just finished proctoring are very happy, as both of my children are very, very ecstatic that they don't have to talk about EOCs for the rest of the school year. It's great to see you all.
Thank you, Senator. And I'm going to hand it over to you for the next part.
Well, thank you guys for showing up and always being so active and participating in our group. We know that we have a task ahead of us and a date that's coming up quickly for the governor with regards to our recommendations regarding cell phone use in our schools. So following your feedback about increasing small group discussions, we engaged in small groups to review and provide feedback for the first draft of the best practices. And so by the end of this meeting today, we will actually have the opportunity to go ahead, be in our small groups, and then report back. We're going to receive information on the timeline for the release of the best practices guide. We're going to engage in conversation with regards to small groups, come back to the group and tell us what your thoughts were, and review the final draft of the best practices guide. And then lastly, we're going to, of course, get information about our upcoming meetings and dates, because once we get through making sure that we have the best practices in place for cell phone use, there are other things that we need to tackle within our schools, and we will move on to different subjects. So thank you so much for being here, and I will turn it over to Heather.
Thank you. So on the next slide, we actually have things that we've done so far, all the hard work that you guys have put in. We met in person on April 7th. The governor established the advisory council. On the 14th, we brainstormed those best practices for the topics. Our last meeting was virtually in what Senator Batch calls our Hollywood Squares, where we're all little squares of wonderful people. But we met and we did do those small groups. And so today, which is the 22nd, we are going to continue to look at that final draft and provide any feedback necessary. And please be on the lookout next week. You will actually receive that final best practices guide through email. And then that June 3rd date is the very important date that guide is going to be published. Billy, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. And so if we can go to the next slide. Want to remind everybody of the conflict of interest statement. You can read the conflict of interest statement that's up on the slide there. I won't read it directly for you, but if anybody has a conflict of interest that they would like to state before the advisory committee, before we move on with our business, please do so at this time. And if some issue comes up as we're going through the meeting and you need to raise a conflict of interest during the meeting, you can do that later in the meeting. If some issue that you didn't know was going to comes up, you can do that later in the meeting. So give everybody a second to read that. And if anybody has a conflict of interest, feel free to come off mute and state your conflict. While we're waiting on that, if anybody has one, I do want to introduce Bo Trumbo, who is joining the advisory council today. He was just appointed by the governor to join our group. And I don't know, Bo, if you're able to come off mute and introduce yourself real quick, but Bo is, I've known for a while. He actually used to be the director of the Center for Safer Schools and is now with Emergency Management. Bo, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. As Billy said, I'm Bo Trumbo, Assistant Director of Homeland Security Section within North Carolina Emergency Management. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Bo. Glad you could join the committee. So I will turn it over now to Senator Batch.
All right. So if you've been paying attention to the news, there are a number of our school districts that are weighing these policies. And we heard last time from administrators and also from teachers on this council that there are a number of challenges in trying to make sure that there are best practices and maybe some regularity with that. And so I would let you know that we've had some public comment that we would ask people to, of course, continue to post and provide for us regarding any concerns, thoughts, feedback that you would like to provide. And thank you for those who have already provided that public comment. As we move through, we are going to have a conversation, especially with regards to the budget having just passed. The House is going back now to the Senate for concurrence and what will likely actually just be a conference committee to decide what that would be. The reason why I bring it up is because the House budget actually included their bill for cell phones, not surprising in any way, shape, or form. And then as a result of that, the Senate actually just added their cell phone bill to House Bill 959 that it's making its way through the Senate now. And we'll likely hear that. The language for that Senate bill is the exact same. If that was added to House Bill 959 is the exact same language that happened through the Senate. And so that's some of the information that, if we pass and the House concurs, then the Senate bill will actually become law. I think that there will actually be tweaks to it. As we already discussed, the House and Senate bill have very different visions on what restrictions there should be and what devices should be monitored and regulated within this. So nothing has passed yet, but it is it's either in the budget or in moving bills from the Senate to the House. Very typical of how legislation works its way through. And so we will look to see what actually comes out. But I believe that given the pace of the legislature right now, having only passed 2 bills this session, it's likely that our actual policy will come out with recommendations before a bill actually passes. And hopefully they will heed our advice from this council and include some of those in the revisions that pass. And then I will turn it over to Heather.
So as we get our slides back up, I did want to talk to you guys really quick about the feedback that we received from our May 8th meeting. And based on that feedback, that was what was used to update the guide. And so we are really taking the feedback seriously. The work that you're doing, this is ours together. The work that you're doing is so important. So we're going to continue that work today. It is not possible, as much as we would like to apply every piece of the suggested feedback, we use common themes. So it's important that when you're in your small groups today, your facilitator is actually going to share that those common themes with you in those small groups. So we will look at those common themes as we continue to move forward. And through the final protocol of this feedback, you will get directions here in just a second from Billy, but you are again going to be in those small groups. And this time we're going to have 35 minutes. So I want you to know that we very much value your time. This meeting, I think we originally thought, oh, we could use all this time, but we're going to really stick to this 35 minutes of discussion. And so as Billy explains what we're going to be doing, make sure that we're sticking to that and really paying attention to those 2 questions for the feedback process. Elena, our fearless, wonderful, beautiful person that works for our governor, she actually emailed the most updated copy of the guide to you on Tuesday, which is also posted to our webpage under today's meeting material. So if you want to go ahead and start getting that pulled up and prepared, we would like you to have that ready for when Billy puts us off in our groups and explains what we're going to be doing. Elena has also already, she's on it, put it in the chat. And remember, this main group chat goes away. So if you want to go ahead and have that tab open, because we're going to have a little bit of time to read over and look through the final draft before we look at our feedback process. So if you could go ahead and pull that up, and then Billy, I'll let you explain our groups for today.
Yep. So thank you, Heather. So we're going to put you in the exact same groups that you were in last time, and that was intentional to make sure that you can work with the same members that you were with in last time. And we wanted to make sure that we had a diverse group of folks from different backgrounds in each of those groups. And so we're going to stick you back in those groups. And just like last time, you can see the list of members of each of the groups. So we have the 4 different groups there, and the facilitators of those groups will be the ones that will kind of walk you through the document again that Elena has sent to you guys an email and that she got in the chat. And so we'll break you up, and those facilitators will help lead that discussion. And then when we get back together, we'll have a report out, and the facilitator, or if y'all have another designated person that you want to speak on behalf of your group, will present out on what your group came up with. And so everybody should know everybody from the groups last time, except for Bo, who's the new member that's just joined the council. And so he'll be joining his new group. And other than that, we'll break you up in just a second here. You should get a prompt on your screen that says that you can enter your group chat and go into that group, and your facilitator will help lead that discussion, and we'll get back together in about 35 minutes. And for those of you that are on YouTube, your screen will be blank for a little while we're in the groups, but you're welcome to use that public comment section that we talked about earlier if you'd like to enter any ideas that you have for the public comment section.
I may have to get manually moved over because I'm coming in unverified, so it may not push me there to my group.
All right. I will make sure I get you over right now.
Thank you, sir.
And I guess same with me. I'm not sure why I'm up still too.
Gotcha. Give me one moment.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Well, at least it wasn't just me, Mary Catherine. I got worried.
Right? No, we're in this together. It's fine.
Mary Catherine, you're in group 3. There you go.
And I'm not in my own group, so yeah, it's not all of us. I am unverified.
Senator Batch, here you go. I'm sending you to group 2.
Thank you. You can send Lisa wherever you want to. She can come with me or not.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm still with you.
I got you. I'm sending you to group 4. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right.
Jerry, do we have all the groups back now?
Yes, ma'am. I believe we do. Everyone should be present and accounted for.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you guys so much. That time went by exceptionally fast, and we're going to go ahead and take the next few minutes to just go ahead and hear reports out for each of the groups and just share feedback from their discussions. And so if each group can take about a minute, that would be wonderful. And I'm going to go ahead and call on group 1, whoever wants to present for them, please.
Yeah, group 1, dream team. The feedback was good overall. The sense was that the feedback that had been taken from last time to this time was well done, that there was the guide is very clear, easy to understand. There were some feedback about bolstering portions of the introduction, but otherwise looks good. Thank you.
Fantastic. And group 2?
That's right. Yeah, very good feedback overall as well. Everybody liked the layout of the sections a lot better. We made changes to that from last time. The main feedback was for engaging stakeholders instead of making this so prescriptive, maybe wording it more to just welcome feedback so that we don't put schools in a position where maybe the feedback they get is that they don't want a policy like this and then they kind of feel stuck. And one thing we can add there is that if legislation does pass, which we think it will, then we're going to have to come up with a policy. So we'll have that on our side. But that was one thing we talked about. And then additionally, one thing we had talked about last time was the legislative context section to maybe take out the specific dates there about, as of June 3rd, this hasn't passed, and make that language a bit more general as well, just to make sure that we say that they're referencing what the legislation says when putting these policies in place. I don't know, Senator Bash, if you want to add on to that piece.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think we just wanted to make sure that legislation is going to change over time. And so we don't want to actually put things in there and perhaps just a catch-all of in looking at whatever best practices and policies you put in place, they need to comply with state law instead of it being, we don't even know if we're going to have this. It will likely pass. We just don't know when. Thank you so very much, Emily. I appreciate it. And group 3.
All right. So with the design piece, really enjoy the way it looks. We had mentioned that maybe taking out the yellow part on page 6 and 11. We would love to see on the first page a diverse group of more students instead of just one singular student. And then we talked about possibly switching the recommendation and the legislative update so that we knew, like if we had the legislation and then the recommendation from the council, so we kind of knew. Also, this is nitpicky, but we had a wonderful team member who was like, I don't know if you guys know this, but on page 8, the picture of the staff members actually on their phone in the background of the picture. So maybe we take that one. It's a beautiful picture of our governor, but I think one of the staff members is on their phone in the background. So maybe we could take that out. Some of the other recommendations were possibly under what you guys were talking about with certain school districts. There are certain places throughout that say must or will, and then there's certain places that say consider. So if the goal is to require, then we need to make sure the wording is with that. If it's a recommendation, then we also need to double check the wording on that. And then we talked about possibly adding in during the resource information, the resource section, the information from our resource officers attached a link to that about how in emergency situations for our parents, for them to understand the importance of them not. And the last thing that we would love to see is on page 16 underneath the evaluation part. There was a really beautiful section on how school districts that have already implemented this have had wonderful success. If maybe we could possibly move that up earlier so people see the benefits of it, and then possibly have a shout out to those districts and have a student from one of those districts that is performing well to put that in. Oh, and one more thing, underneath the recommendation part, underneath the evaluation part, if we need to clarify information as if we need to collect baseline data, and if we do need to collect baseline data, districts need to know that ahead of time so they can be able to compare that to the outcome data. So putting that in there. But if all the notes are there, but I took more than a minute, sorry, I'm done.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. And of course, group 4, Brandy, if you would like to give feedback, that'd be great.
Thank you so much, Senator Batch. I do not want to be the reason why we do not get out on time, so I will keep this brief. I will definitely share, we had a very lively conversation and the members of Group 4 provided some great feedback in relation to this content. One of the things that we talked about in detail was the data and making sure that we're including data at the local level. It was great that data was included on the national level, but really giving data so that these local levels can share that will be very, very beneficial. And then we also talked about the information was very content heavy in some sections. So we might want to break it up more and kind of give bite-sized pieces so it's not so overwhelming as individuals are reading this policy. The group as a whole talked about infographics a lot and the importance of using this throughout the document, even to the point of having some infographics as it relates to the different types of devices that we're talking about. We also talked about having some clarity in between personal devices and school-issued devices, because we know a lot of times these schools issue devices. And so what is the policy on that? Is this going to be the same policy or is it going to be something different? We talked about some clarity as it relates to enforcement. You know, a school or a student gets caught with their phone, and then what? What type of enforcement is going to be put in place? And then the last thing I want to highlight that we talked about was having some type of form for questions or comments would be beneficial, so that if individuals had information or had questions, they could click on maybe a form and submit their question, and then the form would be submitted to the council. And that is all I have for Group 4.
Thank you so much, Brandy. And I'll turn it over to Heather.
Couldn't find my unmute. I was the reason why we went long, Brandy, so I take full responsibility, but I'm going to be quick. So here are the upcoming dates. Jared, you should receive calendar invites from Jared, but I do want to note that there are virtual and in person. And so Monday, July 28th is going to be our next in person. Just based on the recommendation, we are starting at 9:30 so that everybody has time to travel. And we appreciate your feedback on that. But please note these dates in your calendars, but you will receive calendar invites. The in-person of meetings will be at the same at JJ where we met the first time. But of course that information will be there as well. I also want you to know that if you have not attended one of the public records training, but you still need to, there will be one more offered on June 18th at noon, and Elena will forward that calendar invite with the meeting link if you need to go to that.
Who do we see? I will be at a conference in July. I will not be in attendance. Do you want me to send someone in my place, or is there a virtual option on that day? I know it's in person.
I'm going to need guidance on that. So if you were to send somebody, remember they would have to sit in the gallery for the information. Everything will be live streamed. So any information that you would want to send to add to that. Yes.
Okay, I'll send
Does
one.
that sound okay?
Well, I'll send one of the assistant directors to take notes
Okay.
and be a part. But I just want you to know I'll be out of state.
Thank you so much for letting us know.
All right, thank you, Heather. And so the next meeting was up on the slide just a second ago. Starts at noon, and that one will be virtual. And then we've got the meeting coming up in July, as Heather was just talking about, that will be here at the Juvenile Justice Headquarters like the first meeting was. Next week, you'll receive an email with the final version of the document with all the input that you guys have given us and the feedback, and we greatly appreciate it. This has been a very fast process to put together a great document, and I really want to thank Elena and her team for really going all out, and our team at DPS that have our graphic design folks that have been working on this have been working really hard to make this a great document that represents you guys' feedback. So you'll get that document next week, which is the week of May 26th. You'll get that document. It will be included with a opportunity for you to vote for approving the document. And so please, please, please make sure that you look out for that email that will include the final document and an opportunity for you to vote yes, that you approve the document or not. And so make sure that you respond to the email with letting us know that you've approved it or not, and giving us that feedback.
Thank you, everybody, for giving us 2 more minutes of your day and time. And thank you for showing up. We're extremely grateful for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. On behalf of our co-chairs, thanks again.
Thank y'all.